So the Philadelphia Eagles are clearly a team full of star power, as they have one of, if not the most talented roster in the entire NFL, and one of the reasons the Birds' expectations are so high this season is because of many of their big-name players. But Philly also does have plenty of pretty underrated players, whether they're guys that have been quietly productive during their careers, stars that are getting overlooked, or up-and-coming players that just have yet to really break through, and there is good reason to believe that the Birds have several of these guys that will end up making a noticeable impact for this team in 2024. So who are these guys, and why is there a good chance that they end up contributing? We're going to talk about that and all the other latest Eagles news in this video today, so let's not waste any time and we'll get straight into it. Okay, so I want to start off this video by wishing a late happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, especially mine, who has always been there for me and has supported me and loved me my entire life. So I love you, Dad. And also just shout out to all the dads in the Eagles, because as much as we all care about how they perform on Sundays, fatherhood is and should be much more important to them. So shout out to all of them again. And that includes head coach Nick Sirianni, who had an entire weekend of celebrating to do, as in addition to Sunday being Father's Day, Saturday was also Coach Sirianni's 43rd birthday. So here's to hoping he had a great weekend and was able to spend a lot of time with his family. And again, just happy birthday to you, Coach. And also shout out to AJ Brown, who made sure to take to social media to wish Sirianni a happy birthday. And I honestly feel like this is important just because of all the recent criticism that Sirianni has gotten with the way last season ended and with his more managerial role as head coach, and him taking less of an active role in the play calling and developing the offense and things like that. So I just feel like it's good for the public, being the media and the fans, to see one of the Eagles' best players and best leaders publicly make this gesture towards Sirianni, just because I think it's another thing that shows that Sirianni still has the support of his players, and it coaxes the fans a bit more to give Nick another chance, because like it or not, he's the head coach of the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles, and if they're going to make another Super Bowl run like they did in 2022, he's going to be a big part of it. And speaking of a potential Eagles Super Bowl run this year, if that's going to happen, then the improved secondary is also going to be a big part of it, as of course, like I heavily focused on in my last video, the Eagles had one of the worst coverage units in the entire league last year, but this offseason they placed a heavy emphasis on improving it, and now many people are saying that they have one of the most improved secondaries in the entire NFL. And we could see a portion of that on display in a recent video released to the Eagles social media page, as we could see several of the guys behind the scenes during Eagles Hype Day. Now this definitely got me excited, just like all the other clips they released from Eagles Hype Day, and I'm just really excited to see just how improved this secondary looks in 2024. And this actually leads me to my next point perfectly, being that I think there are a few Eagles who are being pretty underrated heading into the 2024 season that will end up making a very noticeable impact. And one of them was featured in that video there, as a lot of the hype in the secondary has been directed towards some of the guys like CJ Gardner-Johnson, Cooper DeJean, and Keely Ringo, all of which were of course featured in that video, but the other guy in that video is somebody who I don't think is being talked about enough, and that is safety Reed Blankenship. As at this point, it's pretty clear that Reed will be this team's starting safety this season opposite CJ, and there's good reason to believe that Blankenship can build on his season last year and improve. Now, I think a lot of the fan base is a little bit split on Blankenship after last year, with some still really liking him and others being kind of skeptical of his ability, as Reed kind of had an up and down 2023 campaign, as in his first year starting, he did lead the Eagles defense in tackles with 113 and interceptions with 3, but he also had his moments where he struggled in coverage, and he did give up a few too many touchdowns to feel good about. Plus, he also dealt with a couple nagging injuries throughout the season, and there is no question that he definitely has some things to improve on. Now that being said, I think you can probably put some of his on-field struggles on the coaching and scheme, as pretty much every player on defense last year had issues and struggles, especially towards the end of the year, with just how bad that defensive scheme was. And I also think that Reed did show a lot of promise last season, being that he was one of the only players on defense that actually looked like he wanted to tackle somebody, on top of the interceptions and certain nice plays that he made throughout. And that's all while he was an undrafted rookie just the year before, so I feel like given another offseason and more time to develop, while also being put in a better scheme and given better teammates, and Reed will only get better. And I mean, it seems he's off to a good start this offseason, as he performed well during OTAs and minicamp, with Brandon Lee Gowton of Bleeding Green Nation including him in an article listing 20 winners from the spring, saying, quote, "I've seen some sentiment that Sidney Brown, who isn't yet cleared to practice, and CJ Gardner-Johnson will be the starting safeties. I find that hard to believe when Blankenship regularly makes plays in practice. He created a Hurts interception by tipping a pass and then picked off Hurts himself in another practice practice. Blankenship is very good at knowing where to be. So I actually do think that Blankenship is going to end up being a good player for the defense this year, but what do you guys think? But now the next kind of underrated guy that I think could definitely make an impact this year also comes from the secondary, and that is slot cornerback Avonte Maddox. As Maddox has kind of lost favor with the Philadelphia fans ever since last season, in which he missed the majority of the year with a torn pec, and then when he came back, he was thrown into the fire of the Eagles' awful defense, and he didn't look very good. Then this offseason, he was cut and spent a while in free agency before being eventually brought back on a cheap one-year contract. But with the crazy depth that the Birds have on the back end, many fans think that Maddox may end up not starting, and maybe could potentially even be a surprise cut candidate should things go poorly in training camp. However, I feel like certain fans have dismissed Maddox a little bit too quickly, given the fact that when he's been healthy, he's been a very good slot corner, as he provides kind of a jolt of energy, as he plays fast and is able to make plays, plus he also brings some versatility to play in multiple spots, which is something that Vic Fangio loves, as he's even played safety at times during the spring, while also taking most of the first team reps in the slot. With Brandon Lee Gowton including Maddox in that same article, writing, quote, "I don't recall Maddox making any noteworthy plays, but his stock is up based on still being the first team nickel cornerback and also taking reps on the back end of the defense. Maddox's versatility helps his roster chances and could allow the Eagles to go lighter at safety." And I personally completely agree with that, and even though I love Cooper DeJean and believe he is the future in the slot for the Birds, we've typically seen the Eagles take a little bit of a slower route with a lot of the rookies in the past, and if Maddox is healthy and used correctly, then I think he can be a very good player for this defense, in my opinion, of course. But I could be wrong, so you guys let me know your thoughts on Maddox down in the comments. Now, someone else I actually do want to talk about is Maddox's best friend in tight end Dallas Goedert, as even though Goedert is one of the best tight ends in the NFL, I feel that he's actually become a bit underrated simply due to the fact that he's overshadowed by all the other extremely talented players the Eagles have on offense, and also because he tends to miss a chunk of games per season with some sort of injury. Plus, last year when he was on the field, I just couldn't help but feel like they weren't using Goedert correctly at all. I just didn't feel like they were getting him the ball in the right spots consistently, especially on short routes and over the middle of the field. But it seems like we're going to see a lot more of both of those things this year, as not only was it reported that Jalen Hurts targeted the middle of the field a lot more during this spring, but Goedert also revealed that there will be more quick throws to the tight ends implemented into the new offense.
Yeah, there's definitely different stuff for us. Obviously, we're moving around, trying to get tells with the defense. Getting into those quick throws to the tight ends has probably been one of my favorite things that we added into it. I think those can be beneficial for the tight ends and the whole team as a general. So that's probably what I'd have to say.
So I personally cannot wait to see how Goedert looks with these new changes, because I really do think that even with all the weapons the Birds have, Goedert could still have a huge season if he just stays healthy and is utilized correctly. But now I actually want to look at an Eagles legend and the longest tenured player on the team in Brandon Graham. And this one may actually be a bit surprising because obviously everyone knows and loves BG. It's not like he's an unknown, so me calling him underrated may sound a bit weird, but I really do feel like heading into this season, that statement is valid because I don't think people are really expecting very much from Graham going into his final season, due to the fact that, he's old, he's out of his prime, and he's also not going to have a super huge role, at least on the field next season, as he's going to be a rotational pass rusher on the edge. However, I truly do believe that Graham could surprise a lot of people this season in terms of the production he puts up, as just 2 seasons ago in 2022, he did have a career high in sacks with 11, even while just playing in a rotational role like he's going to have this year. Now, last year, BG obviously took a bit of a step back in terms of the sack numbers, and I do think that may be why he's being underrated a bit, but he really actually did have a good season very quietly, as he had the 7th highest PFF grade among all Eagles players by the end of last year, and he also had a good amount of success rushing the passer, with PFF outlining just how quietly successful Graham really was in 2023 ahead of the start of NFL free agency by saying, quote, "Much like Fletcher Cox above, Graham is an ageless wonder for the Philadelphia Eagles, but he's seen his usage come way down in 2023. Nonetheless, Graham is still an efficient pass rusher who always seems to come up with a huge play late in games on high leverage downs with a pressure rate above 15% on the year. Graham still has great bend around the edge, seemingly shrinking into his stocky 6'2" frame to avoid contact and dip under the outstretched hands of tackles. He's a perfect member of the platoon in Philadelphia." And it went on to show that Graham had a 89.3 pass rush grade in 2023, along with a 19.2% pass rush win rate. So I don't know, but looking at those numbers, I truly do believe that Graham could have a 7, 8, 9, maybe even a 10 sack season under new defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. I don't see it as out of the realm of possibility, but even if that doesn't happen and he gets somewhere around 4 sacks just like he did last year, he's still going to generate pressure, contribute to winning, and be a great leader. So I think there's no question that BG will overall have a very important role on this team this year, but what do you guys think? And now the last underrated guy that I want to talk about, who I think could make a big impact this season, is defensive tackle Milton Williams, as he's a guy that we've been saying for a while now, if given a bigger role and more snaps, he could end up shining for this defense and becoming a breakout star. I mean, there have been multiple articles just this offseason released claiming that very same thing. And this is due to the fact that in a limited role so far through the first 3 years of his career, Williams has played well and consistently has gotten high grades, with him posting very high grades against the run, also while rushing the passer. I mean, Zoltan Budeh of PFF wrote this about him, quote, "Williams has been one of the best rotational interior defenders in the entire NFL over the past 2 seasons. While his 968 snaps over that period ranked just 64th at the position, his 73.2 PFF overall grade places 32nd. Williams was playing the best football of his career before an injury in 2023, with his 77.6 overall grade between weeks 5 and 11 ranking 14th among interior defenders." So with all that and the fact that Fletcher Cox is now gone, it looks like Williams could finally see an expanded role, and it seems like he's ready to take advantage of it, with new Eagles defensive line coach Clint Hurtt saying this about him.
Milton's been unbelievable. His work ethic and attention to detail, asks a ton of questions. I love that part about him. I tell him all the time, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Ask it. You know, it's just you're learning the game and still maturing. I think he has a very bright future in front of him. He does get overlooked a little bit, but he's definitely valued here without question.
So I love the sound of that, and you guys can give me your thoughts down in the comments below. Just how many sacks do you think Milton Williams gets this season? And also, do you think he ends up breaking out finally this year? And now just a last little bit of news here is that Eagles training camp will begin on July 23rd, which is perfect for me because I'll be on vacation from the 13th through the 20th, meaning that I'll be back in time for that. And then the Eagles open practice in the link is scheduled for August 1st, so that'll be fun. And who knows, maybe I'll try to get out to that even though it is my brother's birthday, so we'll see. Either way, I'm going to be covering all the Eagles training camp and just everything else Eagles related year round. So if you don't want to miss any of that, make sure you subscribe, and also really, really importantly, turn on notifications so you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded. And also, while you're at it, make sure you drop a like to show some support. If you did enjoy this video, I'd greatly appreciate it. And also leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. And if you want to watch another Eagles video, you can check this one out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.